Today we're gonna talk about something a little different. There's a movement called ageism that's out now, and it's kind of that you versus you, which I agree with. Man, stay in your lane, don't compare yourself to anyone else. You know that old saying, don't try to keep up with the Joneses. That can get you bent up, a little bit. But it's 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 being pushed too far in my opinion. um when a certain voice or entity pushes a certain look, and that look only is a look that everybody's trying to achieve, I think that's wrong. I think, every woman looks different, every woman has their attributes. But before we even start, with this first, I guess, video of a young lady who's doing that, I was telling Greg, before we talked about this topic, I remember, we were just watching some movies from the 50s, and I was thinking how different TV is with women now versus it was then. Back then, you know, forgive my description, but back then, there was these women on TV that they basically looked like an iron board. They had these really tight dresses on. They weren't curvy whatsoever, no gluteus maximus whatsoever, just, and just their boobs out, and that was it. And that was TV. And I think that like misled women to think that was the desired look. And even go back to like Vogue, the women, on the cover, they were almost anorexic. And now later on, we find out that a lot of them were what they had to do to lose that type of weight. But, there's a limit to everything, right? There's a limit to everything. And I think this ageism is being pushed a little bit too far. And I'll let Greg jump in from there.
Well, yeah, what brought this on was it's the people that we're marketing to now are trying to connect with in our age group, that the Gen X, and people born in the late 60s, early 70s, and earlier, comparing themselves to a bunch of 20-year-olds also, and saying, there is a whole group of social media influencers who have a huge following that are basically saying, I might be 56, but I look 26, or I look better than someone who was in their 20s. And somehow it popped up on my feed, and I mistakenly, forgetting how algorithms work, clicked on a couple of things,